Of pecuniary interests. Having seen none, we'll move on to no public meeting. Councillor announcements. Okay. Charlene?
I know the rest of council are aware of this, but I am attending a International Certificate of Asset Management, and it is Wednesday nights, unfortunately. So I will be leaving council at about no later than 6:45, and I apologize for that. But they have moved up some items on the list so that we can address those before I leave. Thank you again.
That's the way we'll do it. So now, okay. I did have one I forgot. Okay, Councillor Olmsted.
I didn't have one, but seeing
well, you'll think of one now. And
well,
then
okay, I'll think of one. Again, speaking of our regional hockey team, I'd like to commend them for a fantastic start to the season. A 5-2 start. We didn't expect 5 wins until like 2018, maybe. So anyway, I have heard people asking, a lot of people asking about they don't know when they play and that kind of stuff. So maybe there's a way we can help show when the games are. A lot of older people who accost me in the street kind of want to know when the schedules are, and so I don't know, maybe we can poster it or something like that. But anyway, they're off to a fantastic start. I think they're in 2nd place overall. So good start to a new program. Game tomorrow night. Thank you.
Tomorrow night. A game Saturday night.
No games this weekend.
Oh, next Saturday night. Yes.
Off, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
So I think Thursday and then next Saturday.
Every morning on my FM at 6:30, and 7, they announce the next 3 games. Right? Oh, jeepers.
Maybe to finish that announcement, I don't know if they're in the Whitewater News or if they do any schedules or advertising, but
yep.
Okay, and there's a is there a spot in there that shows next game or like that? Is there a spot on Whitewater News that shows next game? Or? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know it. 8 o'clock, special prices. Okay, special prices because of the PA day. $8 for adults and $5 for 16 and under. Okay, and the bar is open.
Yes. Councillor McLaughlin.
No, I don't have any announcements. I'd like to go back and instead of, I see we skipped over the prayer.
Yep,
okay, I would like to go back and just have a few moments of silence for the poor people in Las Vegas over that.
Yep,
I really
absolutely.
think that we could, if you don't mind, we could stand and do that.
Need to be stretching anyway. Thank you very much. Just, I believe there were 4 Canadians died in that. One of them was trapped to death, and that's not a good way to go either. All right. Any other announcements? Okay. we're going to move right on to our presentation, the Muskrat Watershed Council recognition.
So today we are pleased to recognize the efforts, commitment, and leadership of the Muskrat Watershed Council. In addition to the certificate presented by the Mayor, a check in the amount of $40,000 will also be presented. The contribution breaks down as follows: $5,000 for the annual grant, $3,000 from the proceeds of Street Strut 2017, as well as $32,000 towards the Cobden Beach aeration project, half of which is a one-time grant, and the remainder to be paid back through an interest-free loan. Thank you.
So now, Charlene, you and I will change places, right? Yeah, but so we're trying to get things looked after for you.
Which one, if you want to come up? We're gonna do your two items now. Yes, you
So we're going to proceed with the Fire and Emergency Services.
open.
7.5. So we have the first item on the agenda is the Fire Safety Smart Choice for Life Book. Do we have a motion at all? That Fire and Emergency Services Committee received this report for information purposes. Do I have a mover? Mayor Johnson. Seconder, Councillor Mackay. Guy.
Thank you. So the report that you have before you is just more of an information item. First of all, I'd like to thank Terry Moore and Roy Church, the two of them, for going to bat and really pushing for these books. Apparently, we're going to have these books sent out to the schools next week for Fire Prevention Week. This year, they've added one more book, and it's on bullying for so these resources will be in the schools, and the children will all learn about fire safety. It's the best way to get the message home. We found that if you can get through to the kids, they'll bring it home and they'll make the parents check their smoke alarms. Kudos to Terry Moore and Roy Church for continuing on. I believe this is the 12th year that they're doing this program. The cost of the municipality is very minimal, I think just a little over $200. But it's sponsored by your businesses in the area, and they've got great support from businesses around the township.
Is there any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Next item on the agenda is PTSD prevention policy, and the recommendation is that Fire and Emergency Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region endorse the post-traumatic stress disorder prevention policy for submission to the Ministry of Labour. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Councillor Rigger, and Guy again.
Thank you. So the report that you have before you is with regard to PTSD, or I prefer to call it PTSI. It's more of an injury than actually a disorder, and I think the movement is forward out there now to start calling it an injury as opposed to disorder. Take that stigma away from it. Back in a year and a half ago or so, the Ministry of Labour made it mandatory that every municipality who has emergency services have a policy in place. This policy was to be submitted to the Minister himself by the 1st of April of this year. This has been lagging. I took it over. I had a look at, they had something there, just kind of wordsmoothed it a bit, and it's ready to go. I believe the policy is a good policy for your municipality, and it's a legislated policy that you have to do.
Robert?
Just to add one item, this policy also extends to any member of staff. And maybe Guy can speak to the distinction between a staff member and a emergency response person, the difference in law. The one main measure that we provide for people that need some assistance is the EAP program. My understanding is right now the Employment Assistance Program, it's on a voluntary basis, so you sign up or you don't. What we're going to be looking for in 2018 is to make it mandatory for our staff, especially in light of this, but also our commitments in terms of harassment and violence as well, and the health and safety of our members. So you will see some of that come back when we talk about the budget. But this does extend to any member of our staff that if they are facing post-traumatic stress incidents or anything of that nature, that we would do our best to help them through this policy.
Right. So the difference between the emergency services and your regular staff is that it's presumptive for the emergency services, police, fire, paramedics, and correctional services. And I believe nurses may be added in there. I'm not emergency room nurses. I'm not sure yet if that's going to happen. But for them, it's if one of your people come forward with post-traumatic stress injury or disorder, it's presumed that they do have it. They don't have to prove it. They'll be treated. WSIB kicks in. If a regular employee comes forth with, say, an incident happens just out here in the main office and somebody drops of a heart attack and it is very traumatic for the people behind the desk, that person can say, yes, it was traumatic for me. I'm suffering from PTSD. But they would have to have a diagnosis that says, yes, they are. So they'd have to see a psychologist, psychiatrist, some professional to say that, yes, they do have PTSD, and in that case, WSIB would kick in and look after the individual. So it's presumptive for emergency services. It's not for regular people, but it is recognizable.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. I'm done, and my alarm's going to go off any second, so I shall let you finish your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to bring the Building and Property Services meeting to order. We have one item and a recommendation in regard to church bells. That the Building and Property Services Committee recommend Council of Township of Whitewater Region approve not pursuing noise regulation pertaining to church bells. So mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor McLaughlin, second by Councillor Olmsted. Discussion? Which one? Let Rob go, yeah.
So we did get one complaint about church bells, and so the report outlines your power under the Municipal Act to regulate noise. We don't really have any noise regulations, and churches are important parts of our community fabric. So the staff recommendation at this time is to not pursue a noise bylaw, and should this pass by council, we'll notify the person who brought that complaint of that of council's decision.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Community Services is next. Mine? Yeah, no, this is mine. That's yours.
Hi, Community Services. Item A, tree planting memorial. Recommendation that the Community Services Committee recommend Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve the commemorative tree planting at Veterans Memorial Park in Cobden in honor of Patsy Moore. I have a mover, Councillor McLaughlin, seconder Councillor Regier, and a report. Robert, do you want to speak to the report?
As you know, Patsy was a long-time member of our staff team, and there was a request from friends and family to plant a commemorative tree, and we thought that was a great way to honor her. She was also responsible for lowering the massive flag at the park, so planting a tree in her honor nearby is very fitting.
Discussion? Councillor McLaughlin?
I was just wondering if we could possibly donate the money that would go to purchasing the tree, if that would be, if we possibly could do that, because I think it's a great idea. And Patsy was a long time, and in my mind, not only an employee, but an ambassador to Whitewater Region. So in my thoughts, I would like to see us to purchase the tree and let them go ahead.
What I can do is take that as direction and just check with Jordan. The request came through Jordan to see if the tree has already been purchased, or see if we can contribute in any kind of fashion.
Any other discussion? So we'll vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Second item, Westmeath Hall grant application. Recommendation that the Community Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region, number 1, support the Westmeath and District Recreation Association application for an Ontario Trillium Foundation grant to help to fund the replacement of stairs and accessibility ramp structure at the Westmeath Hall Arena. And item 2, and there's a big change on this one, is pre-commit $7,500, not the $25,000 that's in the report. So it's $7,500 in funding for the necessary engineering of the replacement structure, contract management, and in-kind type preparation work for the 2018 budget. Mover, the Mayor, seconder, Councillor Mackay, and discussion. Councillor McKay, sorry. Mackay.
Are they going to take down that steel ramp?
Yeah, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So I just kudos Niels here. Kudos to the Westmeath and District Recreation Association, who have done some pre-planning, not just on this element of the facility, but other capital components of the building. And they're seeking Trillium funding to do this work, so it is a complete replacement of the structure. So it's been repaired over time, but it's at a point now that nobody will want to repair, just in terms of liability and warranty. So our funds would go to the engineering work that is required to be able to apply for the grant. The grant can cover up to $150,000. So we feel that if we partner with the WDRA, and because of how well used that hall is and the accessibility benefits, that we have a good chance of potentially getting the Trillium grant. We got a Trillium grant for the extension at the Forsters Falls Library, if you recall. So yes, it's a complete replacement of that structure.
And do we know, maybe I can ask Neil if he's in the room, will it be a replacement of the steel structure, so steel to steel?
That is what the engineers recommend, galvanized steel.
So the engineers are recommending galvanized steel, for anybody that heard that. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Mackay?
I'm just wondering, how old is that structure?
Neil, do you want to come up, if council's okay? We'll invite Neil to come up and speak into the microphone.
The one on
Yeah.
I don't have an exact date on the construction of it. I do know that Dave Lessard's dad installed it sometime in the mid-90s, early 90s. That's what I was told. So it's over 25 years old. The engineer told me a galvanized steel structure would give us about 30 years on it, 25 to 30 years. Of course, it was your nephew. We inquired about wood as an option, and he said it's not worth the time that it's going to take to install a new one. It won't have the same durability. And the other option we looked at was an earthen ramp, similar to what you'd see at a hotel, where you get a drive-up drop-off point. However, the amount of area required by code to have it flat, and you have to have a slope of 1 to 16 or 1 to 20, we have to take out 2 roads. And I wasn't prepared to come and ask to close 2 roads. As it is, I think there's, Ian had said there's about 35 feet of ramp right now, and with the new codes, it's going to go to 170 feet of ramp. So right now, we don't meet the new codes there, and then they've become much more stringent over the past 20 years or whatever. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty big complex.
Might be cheaper to put an elevator in.
You looked at that? And no, unfortunately that is not. Part of the expense, and a substantial part of the expense, is the roof. Because of the way the structure is made, the building slopes off that side where the entrance is. So all the snow, all the water falls onto the stairs. And that's part of what's caused some of the corrosion. The proposal is that the ramp and the stairs will be completely covered by a roof. To prevent that, it'll remove the hazard, it'll remove the ice hazard, and it'll keep the durability of the structure even longer. We've phased it, and I've shown Robert the plans there, is that even if the grant comes back and it doesn't authorize the complete payment of we can simply do the ramp and the stairs this year, apply for a grant next year for the roof, or come back to township, or figure out another option that we can approach. But we phased it so that it's achievable to do in chunks, and we've asked the engineers to design it that way.
So will we put, or will you guys or us put out an RFP for this work?
Can be either us or them. JP2G would be our kind of engineer of record from a professional services standpoint is going to design it because of time, and also be responsible for contract management. So they can either do it through our auspices, which means our purchasing policies apply, or do it through the WDRA, or we'll do it in partnership, but we'll figure that out.
Okay, any other questions? No? Seeing no questions, we'll have a vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
Thanks, Neil, for being our best friend.
And third item is discussion on municipal float recommendation that Community Service Committee receive this item for discussion purposes. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the discussion? Councillor Rieger and Councillor McLaughlin. Darrell, you want to discuss this item?
I guess I was the one who brought it forward to start with, because I think usually the last Saturday in November is the Cobden Parade, and I know there's been some thought over, or discussion, or different ideas over the float, and I think it needs to be revamped. It needs to be looked at. We need to get some input, what people want, or do we want to scrap it altogether? And that's why I brought it forward, because it's better now than the middle of November going, well, what are we going to do? Let's decide what we're going to do and put a plan in action, and this gives us time to move forward.
Councillor Rieger?
Well, I do agree. I think this is a very important part of our township. I mean, there's 4 parades. There's the one in Foresters Falls in July, and then the 3 parades. I think as a municipality, it's good for us to represent that, and I think it's important that we continue it. What I do not agree with is last year, I had to get my husband's truck, and he drove it and towed it, and we had 2 people on the float, and if you're on the float and you're here in the comments, it's not, to me, it just was not acceptable. I think if we're not going to do it, we're not going to do it, but if we're going to do it, we need to participate. We need to be there, and we need to have the township truck pulling that float, regardless. I don't care if it, I know our mayor's done it before, but even if it's one of our own public works guys, and I think we have to make it look presentable, because it just was not very well put together last year. And that's just my input. But I would like to proceed with it. I think it's important that we continue on with it, but do something with it.
Okay, Mayor?
I agree, and last year was a tremendous embarrassment throughout the whole issue as far as a council floating. I couldn't be there one night, but I was there for 2, and I think the Cobden we had 2. I pulled it with my half-ton, and I could have been. There were three people total, and then there were more in Beachburg and less again in Westmeath, wasn't there? Yeah. So I mean that's ridiculous, for sure. So we need to, and we have the right to do that. I think we need to direct staff to become part of this. That's the only way this is going to work. So I would make that request.
Okay, Robert?
Having driven a municipal, in Meaford, they let me drive a half-ton, the Christmas float. Anyways, so I guess I could drive the truck. But yeah, I kind of find it interesting that the float was not towed by a township vehicle when it's a township float. I can certainly take this as direction to prepare the float for the upcoming parades to be towed by a township vehicle, and we will extend the invitation for people to participate and ensure that the float is a good representation of the township, the corporation, the staff, and not just council, that this is a township float, not just a council float. So I would note that in the minutes then, staff were given direction to prepare the float for the upcoming parades to be towed by a township vehicle.
Do we know what the dates for the parades are? That would help if we can get ahead of it now.
And maybe we can get staff then to pull the dates and then circulate to council and staff so that everybody's aware of the dates, and we'll get going on it now. I think Councillor McLaughlin was saying it needs a lick of paint, and Councillor Regier said that the sign was pretty flimsy. So we'll work on the sign and we'll work on the paint.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, because all we had on the signage was a little wee letters that were this high that said www, welcome to Whitewater Region or something, and get to know us. So, yeah, no, people didn't know it was Whitewater Region that was on the float. So, yeah, it's good.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Well, what I think we need to do is put somebody in charge of this thing, and then it might go somewhere. I mean, we used to have the big banner in the middle. Well, that turned out to be a tripping hazard. So then, at that point, we decided we would put and I think I came up with the suggestion of the signs on the sides. We still do have, there are banners as well, so we, you know, but somebody needs to take this whole thing and be a lead on it. And I agree with Councillor Regier, and we need more participation, be it staff, be it family, be it, you know, it looks pretty terrible when you only have two people on the float and one pulling it. It's not. Either that, or we just, if we're not going to get enough participation, then either we do it and do it well, or don't bother. It's one or the other.
All those in favor of nominating Darrell as director of the float?
Darrell has already declined being the chair. He was chair for 4 years. So the answer is, I built it. I chaired it for 4 years. I'm passing a torch.
Okay, so that torch right now is being passed on to Robert. Robert's taking that as follow-up direction, and he, yeah, we'll make sure that it gets looked after. We're not torching it, no. Okay, so that's for discussion, and that's the end of community services. Up now is economic development and tourism.
Okay, economic development and tourism, we're talking about MOE, boundary signs. Do you want to go from there?
That Economic Development and Tourism Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve proceeding with the request to the Ministry of Transportation for enhanced boundary signs on Highway 17 with the following message: welcome, bienvenue.
Seconder, Mayor Johnson and Darrell McLaughlin.
Mr. Chair, so you may have noticed the Horton and McNabb Braeside signs if you've been traveling kind of east. So MTO will design and install boundary signs. They're called enhanced boundary signs. They include our population, so we'll round up to 7,500. They'll include our township name as well as our logo. There's also an opportunity for a slogan, and since we don't have one, and I would suggest we stay away from trying to brand ourselves something. I know we're the whitewater capital of the world, or of the Ottawa Valley, or of Canada, but it's right in our name. So I was thinking that maybe welcome, bienvenue might be an easier option for us to do. So basically they just require a resolution from council, and then we put in the request, and then they'll install the signs on the highway, those blue signs, on either end of the township. A previous report dealt with the gateway signs, so we're going to apply for a red grant to help update those because they're showing a little bit of wear and tear, but these are the blue signs coming into the township.
Any questions? Councilor McLaughlin?
Do we get to pick the locations, or, because, I mean, we do have two signs at either end of our township, is that not correct?
So these would go as you're coming in terms of the physical boundaries. So if you noticed the Horton Township, they have their own sign like we do, and then they have these installed as well. So the MTO, it'll be a question of where they can get them in. So they'll be as you're entering the geographic area, and our current gateway boundaries signs might not necessarily be right at the border. So they will be close, but this is more of a kind of highway identifier sign versus the other ones that are going to be more gateway features.
Any other questions? Councilor McLaughlin?
Just wondering, where is our physical boundaries? I know where our signs are. I'm sure the mayor knows.
Mayor?
Our physical boundaries are at Orem Road. So that's 2 kilometers east of where our big signs are now. Up here? Up the other side, they're straight out from, well, just slightly east of Whitewater Road. Yeah. big signs that we have up now were put up because of being able to lease land to put them. That was their biggest thing, as close to the outside as possible.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's the end of Economic Development and Tourism.
Number 9, resolutions, 9.1.
The Council of Township of Whitewater Region approved not altering the present method of charging for water and wastewater services within the 4 municipal systems, subject to the completion at a future date of a water and wastewater rate study and evaluation of a method of charging for water and wastewater services that meets or exceeds legislative requirements, as well as considers operational, capital, and growth-related costs.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Dave Mackay, second by Kathy Regier. Any questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
I'm just wondering, and Marcia's not here, but I had a couple of concerns, and as long as those concerns were addressed and were where we thought they were, I don't have a problem, but I never heard any feedback. So maybe, Robert, you can enlighten me?
In the one case, in terms of the water billing in terms of Cobden, what we did with the last rate bylaw is ensure that the minimum charge for people on meters would be the residential rate. So if consumption is so low, there is a minimum charge. So that was rectified last year with last year's budget.
Okay. Okay. As long as that one was rectified and that's in place. I mean, that meter now has, I think it's fully occupied as well. And I think there is a hair salon in there now. So I'm still not really in favor of that when we charge the other ones a rate. But that I think is for further discussion then, and we can follow ahead.
For sure. And as Janet said, and I said last meeting, the first thing will be to understand the capital requirements for our plants on the water and the wastewater side. And once we have that detailed list, because our rates do not reflect any capital requirements, then we will have to redo the wastewater and water study and then update the rates and the strategy for metering, et cetera. I believe only 4 properties now are currently metered. Yep.
Councillor Mackay.
These are private meters. We didn't put them in.
I'm not sure. Right now,
No, we didn't.
We didn't put them in?
No, the meters that we were discussing with the special rate were privately put in. We have meters on the public school and the nursing home. I think we have a total of 3 that we read all the time, and they're on a commercial rate. Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. MTO enhanced boundary signs on Highway 17.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approved proceeding with the request to the Ministry of Transportation for enhanced boundary signs on Highway 17 with the following message: welcome, bienvenue.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Reeve Miller. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. 9.3. PTSD prevention policy.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region endorsed the post-traumatic stress disorder prevention policy for submission to the Ministry of Labour.
Mover. Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, second by Councillor Regier. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. 9.4, tree planting memorial.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approved the commemorative tree planting at Veterans Memorial Park in Cobden in honor of Patsy Moore.
Before I ask for a mover, we have asked staff to do an inquiry about the, cost of the tree, and we will, okay? So, can I get a mover? Moved by, Reeve Miller, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin. Any questions? All those in favour? Carried. 9.5, grant application, Westmeath Hall.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region support the Westmeath and District Recreation Association application for an Ontario Trillium Foundation grant to help fund the replacement of the stairs and accessibility ramp structure at the Westmeath Hall Arena. Pre-commit $7,500 in funding for the necessary engineering of the replacement structure, contract management, and in-kind site preparation work for the 2018 budget.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Regier. Any questions? I thought we changed that to 7,000. Okay, that was just questioning the pre-commitment.
Yep, so it was 7,500.
Okay, all those in favour? Carried. I thought we were throwing a whole lot extra at him. Make him spend it. And he could, you know. 9.6, church bells, recommendation.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve not pursuing noise regulation pertaining to church bells.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Councillor Regier. All those in favour? Carried. Minutes, regular council meeting, 20 September 2017, minutes. Recommended that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular minutes of September 20th, 2017. The mover, moved by Councillor Regier, second by Councillor Olmsted. And any questions? And all those in favour? Carried. 11.2, closed minutes. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the closed council minutes for September 20th, 2017, understanding that they will remain confidential. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor Regier. Any questions? All those in favour? Carried. 12, correspondence. Go through them, Robert.
The first one, you saw the billing statement for 2018. Under quick review, we're not seeing the massive increase we had last year, which is refreshing. It looks like in my quick review of it about $10,000 compared to last year, which was a substantive increase. And then the second item is just the Project Runway campaign from the Airport Commission that was shared by the member of the commission from our council, Councillor McLaughlin. Both are for information purposes.
Okay, can I get a mover? No, we don't need a mover, that's just, yes, we won't move it. Councillor
Just one comment. In the police report, due to the property counts increasing in Whitewater Region, it's decreased the total cost, the base cost to households, because we've had that much development in our region over the last year. We are paying less per household now for the base cost. So I just wanted people to understand the economics of that. Very, very important that development actually decreases the cost individually to people as long as we have development.
Yes, that's key to understand that, because we have placed, this council has placed tremendous, I'm not looking for the word, but anyway, tremendous importance on economic development. And this is why. It's to reduce the individual owner's cost, to be able to do more with less. Thank you.
And so in that, if anybody wants to read that, it's under base services, and it's highlighted. Please note the revision of property counts decreased the base services cost for the municipality by approximately $1,062. So I know we keep banging the drum all the time that we need development. That's why we need development, that it'll decrease the cost of services to everybody.
Any other comments? Councillor McLaughlin?
I'm just wondering, do we get any rebate back? Like, I know we used to get, at the end of the year, there would be an amount that would come back, and I don't know I don't think we do now. I've not heard of any.
There's In the document, there's two areas where there is a reconciliation. In this case, they're fairly minor and they're applied to 2018. I don't have the document in front of me, but
Yeah.
they're minute, I would say.
Yeah, they're minute. Used to be we get a big substantial reduction at the end of the year. That doesn't happen anymore.
If I'm not mistaken, I think, I don't think we actually got a rebate, but I think it decreased the cost for the next year by that amount that of the reconciliation.
I'm going back years ago. This is before this council, I think.
I think I was in diapers then, Darrell.
I don't quite think so. But
You wanna do that? All right, we'll go to that then. So, our closed session reporting, Robert's going to do that. That'll be 13.1 and 13.2.
Council only discussed the items listed and received a training session on health and safety. In addition, direction was provided to the CO clerk to proceed immediately with the recruitment of a full-time fire chief CEMC, which is a Community Emergency Management Coordinator, with no increase to the existing budget.
Any questions? All right. Number 14, confirming bylaw, 14.1, October 4th, 2017, bylaw 1710-101, confirmatory recommendation, be it resolved that the bylaw 1710-1001 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting of October 4th, 2017 be taken as read and passed. Mover. Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Reeve Miller. All those in favor? All right. Have a good evening, everybody. We are now adjourned.